I think our wingers are literally bottom 5 quality.
Welcome to episode 18 of the First4LCFC podcast, and it's an unusual circumstance for us this season as we're once again reviewing a Leicester City loss. And in fact, Brendan Rodgers' men have lost back-to-back games, worryingly, for the second time in less than a month, which has capped a bit of a winter wobble of sorts. But joining me to review not only the disappointing loss and hopefully analyse whether or not we need to be pressing the panic button is Edward Noon and Christian Mosen. How are you both, gents?
All good. Not bad.
It's very good to have a full complement once again. But a bit of a disappointing result on TV on Sunday. I think we were all expecting it to go slightly differently. But I think, having watched it, Chris, do you think, first off, that the result reflected how the match went?
I always say the same thing, but it is a tricky one to comment on because it was just such a disappointing performance, because I was obviously tweeting during the game, and I remember tweeting, I don't know, was it like 20 minutes in, saying like, goals coming, because they were just sat so deep, letting us play through the middle as comfortably as we wanted to. But it's just like, my main observation was that when we play against teams who sit in like that or don't have any real ambition to go forward, it's like we don't get out of second or third gear. We're sort of comfortable in just sort of sparring with them at that level. Whereas when you see teams like Liverpool or Man City, when they're free flowing, they're just fifth gear, like we're just going to get a couple of goals straight away, put these to the sword. Whereas we're like lethargic, almost like unmotivated to go out and get the win. So I think that was the main frustrating thing for me yesterday.
I mean, Leicester still did create some chances through the game, as we saw, but it looked like there was a big crucial moment within the match, Ed, which was the Vardy penalty, which was obviously missed. Do you think that had a bit of an impact on the rest of the game in terms of a momentum shift at that time?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, for obvious reasons, it's kind of like a kick in the balls, isn't it? Like you do think you're going to go ahead, and you start sort of planning for what's going to happen when it goes in, and the mentality shifts. But when you miss, it's all right, back to square one. And if that goes in, then, to be honest, I think we'd be talking now about, yes, another poor performance, but we'd be talking about how, we played rubbish, but we still won, sign of a good side, blah, blah, blah. But it is disappointing, like Burnley have scored 1 goal in the last 4 league games, and then we go ahead and we end up losing in a game where, yes, there was the penalty, which obviously you should score. And it isn't like other games this season when we've played teams low in the league where we've created a hatful of chances, but there were certainly times where their keeper kept them in it and made 2 or 3 good saves. So I don't know, maybe I'm putting a bit too much of a positive spin on it, really. Like, it really was a better penalty or slightly better finishing in 1 or 2 occasions, and it'd be a very different story.
Because you did get the feeling that had that penalty gone in, that the game would have gone Leicester's way, that we were on top without being completely in control. But when you look throughout the league, obviously Chelsea suffered a late loss to Newcastle. Man United lost as well. Sheffield United and Arsenal drew. Man City dropped points at Palace. So Leicester is still sat in third, despite undergoing their worst run of the season. So, Chris, I mean, there's been a bit of almost like a mini panic amongst Leicester fans, that because obviously we have had a pretty dismal run of form. Do you think that's warranted, or are we over concerned about how we should be at the moment?
No, I think we should. We've got a right to be concerned. There's no reason for us to be playing like this. I mean, people will be listing things like fatigue and stuff, but I mean, yeah, it's a fair argument, because maybe that could be the reason why there is a lack of consistency across the whole of the Premier League, really. But for me, it goes a bit deeper than that. I think it's fundamentally, for me, it's having an inexperienced team, a young team, and I'm going to directly compare us to Chelsea in that respect. That they've struggled for form all season. They've got a talented squad, but they've chucked a lot of youth players in there, players that were plying the trade in the Championship, and I think I said it early on in the season. Like, it'll be interesting to see if they lose a game, how they react. And they've hit a rut in form throughout the season, and so have we. And we're obviously struggling to react to it. But I think it's getting to that stage now that we can't afford to start looking over our shoulder and going, "Oh no, it's all right," because other teams are sort of dropping points, because it's sort of the characteristics of a team that have got bottle jobs written all over it. Like, we can't just start with it's all right, we're cruising, like everyone else is dropping points. Ultimately, as I've said all along, we look ahead, we try and keep as close to second as possible. That's where we need to be looking. But the moment we start looking back, it's squeaky bum time for me then, and that gap's only going to get closed, smaller as time goes on.
But obviously, we've had a phenomenal first half of the season, and have definitely dropped off after Christmas. We had the most congested fixture list I've ever on, not to make too much of an excuse, but you can see in the fact that in the last 4 games, Rodgers hasn't started with the same back four. There's been rotation and everything. But do you think maybe the fact that we started so well has slightly altered the perception of the squad? And by that, what I mean is, do you think that squad is necessarily good enough to keep that sort of form going all season? And should we perhaps allow them to have a couple of disappointing results, because that is perhaps where our level really is?
Well, I'm certainly not right about everything, but lest we forget, when we were doing our predictions earlier in the year, that I predicted we'd drop off, and I got my head bit off by a certain somebody, Chris. And I did think this was going to come. Obviously, there's a difference between losing back-to-back games against teams that you think are, really good, strong teams who could be challenging for Europe, versus what we have just done, dropping points against Southampton and Burnley. But I do think it was only a matter of time. It's just sort of disappointing in the way it's come, I think most people wouldn't mind if we played decent or lost against a team that we sort of thought maybe they are better than us. It's just the way it's both a team that aren't as good and a team who our performance was also poor. So both of them at the same time, it does knock you off your pedestal a little bit, doesn't it?
I'm going to have to come back and have a little nibble at what you've just claimed there, actually, because it's not so much that our performances have totally dropped off a cliff. Like, right, if you look at the stats, we're still creating chances. I'm not a massive person to be fixated on stats like that, because ultimately, we're not winning matches. That's the main stat. But it's the way we're conceding goals. Let's just look at the goals we conceded yesterday. Both were scrappy second ball goals. Like, anyone could have highlighted pre-match. Burnley, if there's some statistic for it, probably get a lot of goals from second balls because they just overload the box. We spoke about it last week, how they're going to score. It's going to be from a cross. Look what happened. But it's the frustrating thing that it's not from a direct cross. It's just scrappy. It's unacceptable. Like, in terms of at this level, we shouldn't be conceding goals like that. And for me, that's the most unforgivable thing. We're a top 4 team at present, but we're defending like a bottom 4 team, because you see those sorts of goals going in lower league football. They shouldn't be going in the Premier League.
But this is what I mean about the fatigue playing its part, because in the last 2 games, we've conceded goals thanks to very uncharacteristic errors. Last game it was Evans fluffing his line with a clearance, where normally he's Mr. Reliable. But then there's other like little stats which just sort of, for me, show that that fatigue is creeping in, and the fact that in the last game, I know that you don't place this much emphasis on stats, but in the last game, the back four's like average pass completion was around 70-75%. Whereas you go back a few weeks against Newcastle and it was up in the mid-90s. And I think that just shows that they're not as sharp, they're not quite on the game as much. So it's whether you say, right, we'll allow them to have these errors after a tough run, or whether you say that realistically we should be keeping the high level performance going all season, is where you sort of sit on that, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a true point, but you expect something from the most experienced player in our squad, someone like Johnny Evans. It's not so much physical fatigue; it's his concentration that's obviously costing him at stages, including yesterday as in Southampton, like you mentioned. But I think if I'm going to highlight what I think the real reason is, and what I didn't actually appreciate at the time of the injury was it's that man Ndidi, isn't it? The anchor, someone that
The what?
The anchor.
All right, sorry.
Indeed, the anchor. Yeah, he's always there. He's there to collect the ball. He knows how to. It's something he's really developed over the last season or so in terms of he'll always play a sensible pass. He'll win possession back, and I don't think there's any excuse in the fact that he's been a huge loss. And that's equally led to a bit of a drop in form, hasn't it?
No, I mean the defence have been much busier in the last few games whilst he's been out. There's no doubt about it. He's not underrated by Leicester fans. I think he's underrated by fans of other teams. But this is just highlighting his importance to the side. But I mean, obviously he's never going to be as good as Ndidi. But Mendy came in yesterday, obviously with no Choudhury in the squad. Ed, what did you make of him? Because he's come in for some criticism over the last couple of seasons, not all entirely unwarranted, but I mean, I thought he played pretty well yesterday.
I guess it's all relative, isn't it? Did he do well compared to Ndidi? No. Did he do well compared to even Choudhury? Probably not, but he's being asked to do a job in a position that he's not played regularly this season. And just thrown in at the deep end almost. So he certainly didn't embarrass himself. My major concern for the midfield was the lack of Tielemans. I said on last week's podcast that I felt he's been rested now. We need to chuck him back on. And weirdly, even though it was when him and Iheanacho came off the bench that they got their winning goal, I did think we looked more of a threat with the two on. And it's sort of when we were playing so well, we did have that three of Ndidi, Tielemans and Maddison. Well, yesterday, that was stripped back to just one of them. It was yesterday, sorry. On Sunday, we only had one of them. And I think that shows when you got a midfield that, you know, they're trying to play attacking game where they're going to get a lot of touches of the ball and trying to create stuff. And then you've got this trio who have hardly played together. I do think that's where some of the issues came in.
I mean, he was our most successful passer. He won the ball back more than anyone on the pitch, bar Pereira. He covered a lot of ground. I think it'd be unfair to criticise him. I thought like you said, he didn't probably play as well and have the same impact that Ndidi would have done.
He was just solid, wasn't it? He didn't do anything amazing, but he didn't do anything bad. Like, I guess when you're in that position, it's rarely that some sort of holding midfielders you're going to be raving about him the game after, especially one that you're hoping to dominate and have more of the ball in. But yeah, whenever he gets called upon, he does a solid job, and if he's happy to play the role he plays in the squad and be like a backup to a backup, then he warrants his place.
We just need Marty to come back and convince Ed that he's a world beater now as well.
There is no chance that Daniel Amate has got a future at the club.
You said the same about Mendy, in all honesty, as I'm sure you'll admit. But yeah, he's not. I agree with what you said. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, in tough circumstances as well. He's obviously got massive shoes to fill. But obviously, the main reason why he was there was the lack of Choudhury. Now, obviously, it's only rumours, really, but the rumours are that neither Choudhury nor Chilwell made the squad as they were disciplined for turning up to training late. An insight into RODGERS that we haven't seen yet, the disciplinarian, another example of his man management. I mean, you've got to be happy to see him take a hard line if those do turn out to be true.
I mean, there's hard, and that's just erect almost, because do I mean, I've heard varied rumours. I don't know, like whether it's what you believe in, it's social media, and but like that's quite harsh. Like, let's talk about Football Manager. You don't drop players for turning up late to training. You fine them a week or 2 weeks.
That's where we differ.
Yeah, that's where we differ. If they didn't turn up to training, they're straight on the transfer
But,
list.
but I'm just saying, I don't think they didn't turn up to, if they were late, is what you're saying. Then.
Yeah, they were late. But I think it might be, well, again, purely rumours, but it might be because.
I want to add to this rumour.
Go on then.
Because I've just read on Fox's Talk that somebody's commenting that if this is the genuine rumour, reason why Hamza got in trouble, then he obviously didn't learn anything because he was out in Nottingham last night.
Right.
But which the original story may not be true, and that may not be true, but it's just thought I'd stir the pot a little bit.
Well, I think for me, I do believe there's truth in the Chilwell rumours to Chelsea, and I do think it's just a case of his head being turned. For me, there is something in that. He's a young lad. He's being drawn to a big club like Chelsea, playing under Lampard. He's obviously got mates and how close he is to Mount and people like that. But I think there's an element of that. And in terms of Choudhury, it's if these things are true about him just being poor discipline, and it's just. I hope you don't go down that route of these sort of players like Ravel Morrison and all that, where they start just getting their head turned for the lifestyle more than anything, because ultimately he's a position where he was starting to sort of, get his first team football. So I can only hope that, he does buckle down and, sort the attitude out if there is one. Yeah,
I mean, if there is a problem, it's a real shame because, like you said, he's got a big opportunity with Ndidi being out. And realistically, that should have been his time to shine. I mean, there was even talk in certain publications about him being a bit of an outside bet to make the Euro squad. But he's not going to do that if he's not playing.
Well, the other rumour was, I don't believe this at all, but he was linked with Newcastle, wasn't he? Which is slightly strange given he broke Richie's ankle or leg, whatever it was. But I don't think there's any truth in that. But
no, I mean, if you believe the reaction of Newcastle fans, he essentially murdered Matt Ritchie. But they did go a little bit over the top with that one, didn't they? But so just talking about the game before we move on, another player that's come in for a bit of criticism once again is Ayoze Perez, who worked pretty hard defensively, but again, didn't really offer anything going forward. I mean, what do you do with a player such as that then, Chris? Is it time to give someone else a go, or do you persist with him for now?
Yeah, it was strange actually because I was watching it and then I could have sworn I seen Perez's name on the team sheet before the match. I was like, is he actually on the pitch? And yeah, he did turn out to be on the pitch. The only thing I remember him doing was getting up well for a header at some point, and it went over. But for me, it's a frustrating thing, isn't it? I'm going to have to bring Barnes into the debate. He scored. He's not on the agenda, but I'm bringing him in because I know you're going to defend him. Yes, he got a goal, and I was the one tweeting saying I liken that goal to Michael Owen's solo run against Argentina. Probably overdoing it a bit because Owen worked a bit harder and didn't have Ben Mee running into the back of his own net just to jump. It was like a FIFA glitch. When was he going to stop? But no. On a serious note, Perez didn't do anything particularly impressive going forward. Like you said, he was better tracking back, but like I said, that's more effort, isn't it? That's the least you expect of a player, just to get his actual work done. He didn't actually offer anything moving forward for me. Whereas Barnes, I think I'm going to be harsh on him again. I think he had a good game because he was up against Ben Mee, to be fair. Like there was times he was actually taking him down the line and just what I want to see him do. But I just don't think he's capable of doing that against a better skilled defender or fullback or whatever you want to call them. I just think we're really lacking in wide positions, and I can only hope that there's some movement behind the scenes because we're so sterile out there. If he's only having good games against the likes of Burnley, and one of them even isn't in Perez, then I think our wingers are literally bottom 5 quality.
That's a big statement.
I'll take that Buendia from Norwich. He's a better player than both of them, and he's the bottom of the league.
Well, Buendia is. I know you might well have picked him because I was saying that I quite like to sign him earlier, so I literally can't disagree with you. But I think Perez is. He just seems to be showing that the sort of the summary that Newcastle fans gave us on him is absolutely spot on. He's too hot and cold. He'll either be absolutely brilliant in a game or he'll offer absolutely nothing.
He's only ever been brilliant once, and that was when Southampton literally forgot to come out of the changing rooms.
Yeah, exactly. I think on Barnes, I thought he was actually much improved yesterday. By no means.
But do you honestly think that's because he had a better game, or honestly, just it's people like Phil Bardley and like I know him because of his wife's on the Real Housewives of like Cheshire or whatever it's called. Like, is he still a footballer? Like that back line of Burnley is other than like Tarkowski, they're decrepit, man. Like you could have a go at taking them on.
I'd have a go at Phil Bardley maybe, but no, I understand what you mean. But the same token is it's the classic cliches that you can only do that against what's in front of you. But I think you've got to say that he played well in a game where several others struggled to. I think it's fair to say Vardy was very poor. Maddison offered little at times. Pereira going forward, he tried his best but didn't offer a lot. And Barnes is the one that stood out. I thought he was, if we were going to do anything, it was going to come through him. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm just desperate to see Iheanacho. Like, we've got an informed player. We referenced him as an informed player last week. I don't even know. Even if it means sort of taking Vardy off, like we literally need to sort of just maximise the players that are playing with confidence at the moment, because for me, it's just all a bit wrong. Like, maybe this is being real sceptical, but even the way Vardy took that penalty, that's not a Vardy-like penalty. That's just like a side-footed, tame effort. Just blaze it. Like, it's what he used to do. There's something's not quite right in terms of just the general feel about the squad, and obviously we can't pinpoint why that is, but yeah, it doesn't seem right to me. And Iheanacho, at least he's sort of hungry for the goals at the moment.
Yeah, I'd quite like to see Iheanacho given his chance. But Ed, do you think it's slightly concerning that once again we've gone ahead and once again we've ended up on the losing side?
Yes, but I think I don't want to put it all on like one area of the team. Like it seems easy to say, yeah, if we're defensively not doing as well, and yeah, the statistics would agree with that. I think I just looked at the league table, and in the last 5 games we've got, given how good our defence was at the start of the season, the last 5 games we've got the 4th worst defence in the league, conceded 9 in 5. So you could put it all on the defence, but given our team is about possession and creativity and etc., then, you know, the defence isn't going to even be put under that much pressure if the midfielders are keeping the ball and they're creating and we're getting the chances and we're dominating. And I feel that, you know, it's just an all-round team effort, and it goes from, yes, maybe the defenders aren't as 100% as they were before, but midfield as well, missing Ndidi. Tielemans is, yeah, Pratt's a very solid player. I even said a few weeks ago he might be the best sub we've ever had, but he's just a solid player. Like, I feel we need creativity, and the wingers aren't chipping in as much. You can't expect Vardy and Maddison to do everything, and you know, all you need to do is have one of them have an off day, which they may well do. Maddison's very young, and Vardy's one man up front who's in his early to mid 30s now. You can't get that every week. So if our wide men aren't contributing and we've not got another creative player in the middle, then yeah, other teams are gonna be more of a threat. And yeah, defensively we aren't looking as solid for those reasons.
So basically, the fact that our wide men aren't really bringing a lot in terms of, I mean, obviously Barnes did yesterday, but looking at the last few games,
Stop not defending him.
I will defend him to the death, but they're not offering as much as they probably should be. It makes us easier to defend against, is what you're saying, because they can just focus on the threats.
Ed, what do you think it's going to take for? How bad does Barnes have to play for Jamie just to literally see that?
I think he has to. like spend a night with Jamie's wife.
Barnes has to miss an open goal, lift up his shirt to reveal a shirt saying Jamie can go fuck himself, and then maybe I'll say it against him. But no, I just think, because I think a lot of people are. I'm not saying it's.
I'm joking with you.
I know, but I'm not saying it's wrong to criticise players, and I think they certainly deserve it. But I think the reaction to Chilwell, in particular, has been too much from certain sections of the fans. Like some people saying they'd be happy to see him sold, and I can't quite buy into that. I was
going to say, I think fickle's the word, isn't it? Like, let's just go back to like the autumn internationals when he was tearing up, getting a hat trick of assists. Like, that's the frustrating thing, and I referenced it last week. That Leicester City fans, and I'm not sure if it's like this at other clubs, but my days, how fickle can you be? Like, yeah, he's out of form, but be careful for what you wish for. We get 50 mil for him. He starts playing well for Chelsea, and we'll be crying into our cornflakes thinking, do you know what I mean? Like, just let's steady on now. Like, if he wants to move, then fair enough, there's a different argument there. But if he's just out of form, let's just go steady and remember that what he's capable of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've lost. You know, we're not on a good record in terms of the Christmas run, but you've got to have a bit of perspective and look at the wider league, surely, and how we've done for the rest of the season before you start flying off at them.
Sorry, we sort of sideways moved. Obviously, I'm not blaming it on Barnes or either winger that we're conceding goals and not playing as well. Yes. Classic saying is attack is the best form of defence, and in a team that's wanting to keep the ball and create, if we're not doing them, then yeah, we are going to invite more onto us. So I guess it's a team effort, isn't it, really? And collectively for about a month now, really, even in the wins, they have not been up to the standard that they were early in the season. Yes,
and I mean, they did create more chances if you buy into XG as a stat. But I think one of the most disappointing stats to come out of it was that game was only the third time in 77 games for Burnley that they've won despite having been losing at half time. And I think that just shows how poor it was as a result. But there you go. I mean, so we've had a lot of listener questions sent in this week, which is great. We always love getting these, and we'll have a good stab at answering as many of them as we can. One which was from Mark. I will paraphrase him slightly, but he's essentially said, "Is this run a blip following the hard Christmas period, and does it run deeper?" And I suppose we've sort of touched on that already. But Ed, if you want to just have a go at sort of summarising that one.
I think that the complicated answer is, I think we overperformed at the start of the season and we're underperforming now, and hopefully in the next few weeks we will find our actual level again. Well, so if that even makes sense.
I'll have a little nibble at Mark's question, if that's all right, Jamie.
Yeah, by all means.
I'm looking at the fixtures. So on Wednesday night, is it? Yeah, Wednesday. We've got West Ham at home. Well, yeah. And I don't rate West Ham, but the whole new manager thing, they're a bit inconsistent. You know, you literally don't know how they're going to turn up. So, yeah, relatively, it should be an easy game, but it's not. It's going to be a very, very cagey affair. But we'll talk about it later on. Then we've got Brentford. Again, literally impossible to call who's even playing. But again, say we lose that, that's just a confidence loss. And then Aston Villa. So by this stage, you know, there's pressure mounting up, and then we've got Chelsea in the league, and then Wolves, and then Man City. Like this is really not. I'm going to go as far as saying, in relative terms, this is actually a trickier run than what we had over Christmas with Liverpool and Man City. Purely because if we could get bombed out of a cup, 2 cups, keep losing to average teams, and then get faced with 3 above average teams, like, where does it end potentially?
So that leads in it pretty nicely into a question that we had from Adam as well, who said that, picked up on your point in that soon we play Wolves, Chelsea, Man City. If we lose against West Ham and lose all 3 of those, we could quite easily be 8th, which I don't necessarily agree with because I'm not even sure that's mathematically correct. But we need signings and immediately. 3 should have been through the door already. We have failed in this transfer window. What ambition do we have? Adam, that's quite dramatic.
Right, let me find. So there's how many games were there? 4.
4.
We could be 7th.
So he's not a million miles off the point.
Well, we would be 7th. Yeah.
That's assuming that all the teams below us win all their games. But his point still stands in a way, I guess, in that, we've got a tough run where we're not necessarily expected to pick up a huge amount of points. Should we have made more of an impact in the transfer window is essentially what he's asking.
I think you got to look at it from across the board. Like, there's barely been any movement. But January's always a bit of a stagnant sort of a transfer window, ain't it? And then you've always got like one of these highlight moves. Like it'll be someone like Cavani, won't it? Obviously not to Leicester, but I mean, hopefully we'll land Sancho. I think so.
There it is again.
But no, on a serious note, it is whether or not I'm worried. At the time of recording, we've got 10 or so days left. Surely we're doing something behind the scenes. It's going to be one of those that comes out of the blue, like the whole Perez thing. Like a rumor gets spread. Next thing you know, no more bets on a player. And next thing he's wearing a Leicester shirt. But it's deep. Just because we sign someone, we're judging them on being a player who's going to slide straight into our team, suggesting that he's a starter at some other team. Because if it's a non-starter for another team, then whether or not he's ready to pick up the pace in the Premier League is it doesn't. Just because we sign someone doesn't mean we're going to suddenly magically have our problems cured. Because I don't think it's that straightforward.
No, there's not a simple fix, is there? But it might not necessitate needing to go out and spend a lot of this money. You never know. But I mean, Amar is sort of Amar who featured last week has sent in a couple of questions. Actually, I'll pick one of them, which is essentially saying that has Brendan taken this squad as far as he can? What players? I know.
Questions coming from.
That's a big question. He does explain it in that he's saying the players have no excuses for not beating Burnley, and it's essentially the same squad that had let Puel down, in my opinion, and now Rodgers. For me, we're crying out for new players just to give a breath of fresh air to the team. But who at the moment would you consider selling in the summer to make way? So basically, I suppose you can try and answer this in 2 parts. Firstly, do you agree that we need an overhaul of the squad? And secondly, who would be front of the queue for you to sell?
Can I address his Rodgers comment first?
It's mental. It's absolutely...
No. I'm going to support him semi. Yeah. I don't agree. Obviously, I feel this is more of a debate starter rather than an actual opinion. I apologise in advance if this is what you think. But Chris, you were saying there's this mega run come up, of fixtures. Let's say in a hypothetical world, we get knocked out. We get knocked out of both cups and drop points, potentially even lose to Chelsea, Wolves and Man City.
Yeah.
Probably be out of the top 4. We would have chucked 2 cups away.
Yeah.
And in the middle of an awful run, do you think any Leicester fans or increasing amounts of Leicester fans will make statements that are similar to what Amar has come out with there?
Well, I thought Amar was a level-headed individual.
Didn't sound like it last week.
But I think he's lost his head, to be honest. Like, it's classic. Like, you listen to Talk Sport, things like that. They're always banging on about managers and the managerial merry-go-round. Like, what? So we're going to start calling for Rodgers to get sacked? Who do you think we're going to get in? Like, at the time of appointment, Rodgers, and what he's proven to be at our peak, one of the best managers in world football from what he's doing. So where do we go from there? What, we're going to be one of these teams? We're going to resort to someone like Carlo Ancelotti? Like, literally, be careful for what you wish for. What? Like, this is crazy. This is it's a head loss comment. I just
answer the question.
Yeah, in answer to your question, I don't. Yeah, I think there will be people who are starting to get itchy fingers on things like Fox's talk.
Lose every match until after the Man City game. Like, how much rough percentage of the fan base do you think would start questioning?
There'll be about, it's hard to put percentage on it. I think there'll be enough that there'll be basically even more problems with amongst our own fans. There'll be, if you want a percentage, I don't know, 10%, but that's still enough to start discussions like, look, all I'm going to say is summarising, pound for pound, Brendan Rodgers is a better manager than we'll be able to acquire. So let's just chill out. Even if we lost all them games, let's just be steady on.
I think that just shows that the next few fixtures are very important. There you go.
Well, yeah, they're very important. Like, whether or not you want silverware, like me, or whether you want top 4 football.
Wait, do you want me to just give you some news about the training situation? A tweet's just been posted by someone who works for Sky about what happened with Chilwell and Choudhury.
Is it Rob Dorset by any chance?
Yeah.
He tends to know what he's talking about.
Yeah, he says that it was the Leicester City squad that actually fined Chilwell and Hamza for being late to training, and the fines go into the Christmas party fund. Apparently they were late, it seems.
Does it say that had anything to do with Rodgers dropping the pair?
No, it says club hasn't sanctioned the duo, and Rodgers accepts both had personal reasons for being late. Whether that means personal being, I don't know, they had family issues, or whether it literally was their personal issue was they were hungover from the day before. It doesn't say, but this certainly suggests they were late for training, which sort of corroborates Roger saying they missed things. But the fact it was the Leicester teammates who were enforced the fine, maybe that's interesting.
I'm just looking at to add some relevance to the Rodgers discussion whilst we went off topic, is 66-1 on the 20th of January to be the next manager sacked, which puts him one of the least favourites to be getting sacked. But nonetheless, like, another theory is how long before people start saying let's get like Nigel Pearson back or something just ridiculous like that.
Done a stellar job at Watford.
And also that never stops as well. That goes on all the time. You never move on from that. Really.
We'll get Vardy playing again. He'll put a rocket up him. Yeah.
Just start playing long for Vardy. That age-old debate.
He's doing well for Watford, though.
He is doing well for Watford. I think we can all agree that we're happy to see him do well as well, right? Like I am pleased for the man. Although the story came out about him apparently fighting a pack of wolves.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm not sure exactly how much. Have you seen a wolf? They're massive.
He gouged one of their eyes out.
I've never seen one.
I think of Day Off the In-Betweeners in terms of the...
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to tell him that he was lying, but there you go. Right, we'll try and get back to these questions instead of comparing Nigel Pearson to Jay from the In-Betweeners.
What?
One of the Big John, what? One of the other questions from Austin Forbes was essentially basically saying, do you think it's a start of play issue in that we don't seem to be pressing as much to make teams uncomfortable? We seem to be allowing them to play. And he also says that he believes that we need a winger who's more direct in their play and able to beat a man with pace, such as in the style of Traore and the guy from Newcastle. So what do you make of both of those points then? Do you think we have sort of stepped off the gas in terms of our pressing in defence?
I think if we're going to be consistent with what we've said in this podcast, then the reason we're not pressing as high is because we're fatigued. So I think that answers that one and boxes that one off to a degree, because I do think that is partially the reason. But I do agree with his second point about the winger, as we've touched upon it. Yeah, we do need. I think we need someone a bit more skillful, more than direct. Someone who can beat a man by a step over, or like I said earlier in our group chat, someone who can actually twist the opposition player's knees, basically sending him on his arse like Mahrez did to Chilwell earlier in the season. But on this note, with Austin being one of our American listeners, do want to just greet all those who listen from around the world. But good question. But I think it's a winger is needed, but playing even more of a pressing game is going to just expose us even more, I feel, right now.
Absolutely. So obviously there are a few more that we won't be able to get around to, or that we've sort of already answered. But thank you to everyone that sent them in. And to everyone who voted in our poll, it's good to see that there is still some positivity out there. We asked where Leicester fans think that we will finish after this little bit of a blip. 65% of you believe we'll be in the top 4. The other 30% were in the top 6. There was a couple that are obviously thinking it's doom and gloom and that we've messed it up already. But there is obviously positivity going into some very important games. So that's where we'll look to now. So obviously we face West Ham midweek in a couple of days before heading down to Brentford in the FA Cup. So I guess, without wanting to kickstart the whole league versus cup debate again, what sort of teams do you play for both these games? And what changes do you make heading into West Ham? Firstly, you've got to be going with your strongest 11, surely.
Tielemans and Iheanacho in.
So how are you fitting
CHILWELL
Iheanacho in then? How are you fitting Iheanacho in?
However he got fit in early in the season, I can't even remember.
So that was either playing with a 5 at the back and a 2 up the top, or with a midfield diamond.
I'll take the. I don't know. With Ndidi out, I don't know if I'd want to play the diamond. So maybe start with the 5 at the back, and then you can always, Chilwell and Pereira offer great width. Yeah, and if that's not working, just take one of the centre backs off and stick a winger on. And I just think whenever he comes on, even if it's just 20 minutes, he doesn't necessarily always score, but he's showing he's skillful with creating. He's looking like he's hungry when he's on the ball. He does change the game. So, and he's scored and created a lot this season, given his game time. I want him in. And same with, not same goals and assists wise, but Tielemans is more creative than Mendy or Pratt, and I want him back as well. He's not been in as good form this recently. He got rested, took out the side. Things haven't improved for the team, so now it's his time to step up and show us what he was doing last season. So yeah, I definitely want those two back.
Yeah, I'd quite like to see Iheanacho play as well. I think you're right in that he's always positive in almost everything he does now. He seems to have that intent. Chris, is that something that you agree with, in that you want to see us try and force 2 strikers onto the pitch?
Yeah, I want to look at it from a bit of a different angle. I'm looking at West Ham and how they're likely to line up. So if Zabaleta plays, happy days for Barnes. That's another bang average fullback you can have a go at. But then, you look across, just to summarise their backline, Diop and Ogbonna, hit and miss. And then you got Cresswell, so again, not the best defender, in my opinion, better at going forward. And then, in the midfield, Rice, again, a player who blows hot and cold for me. He's been linked with big moves away, but I don't think he's yet to prove himself fully at Premier League level. And then Mark Noble, who's relatively a passenger for me now. I'm surprised he still starts.
So he's scoring now. You've said that, you know that, don't you?
Probably. But I think it's one of those. I think we should be able to dominate this one at home in the midfield. But it's just, again, it's if we get into that rut, like we start well, but then our West Ham are like passing it around, so we're just going to match them. We're not going to push it to them. Then you got someone like Lanzini or then Haller, the big man up top. Like, it's unpredictable what they can do. But for me, if we take the intensity to them, dominate in the midfield room, and just play well fast between the lines, I think we should be dispatching West Ham. But it's the same argument for the last few games, and we've struggled.
Do you think with the run that we've mentioned coming up, and some tough fixtures and some big games, do you think that this game against West Ham is more important? In that we almost need to get a win in this to stop the rot, and also to pick up the points where we think we're most likely to do so.
Yeah, but I think with each game that passes, the pressure, the mental side of the game's getting harder. Like, say say the point of like Norwich or something, that was like zero pressure. Players thought we should be winning this, but 20%'s being knocked off each time we sort of drop points at home. And the fact that before Southampton, what was it like? We lost one of the last like 50 or something when we took the lead, and now we've done it twice back to back. There's clearly a confidence issue, and like I said, it's not so much physical as much as a mental thing. And I don't know, like David Moyes, he's an experienced manager, so I'm sure he'll know how to play a couple of mind games and do like the sensible and the frustrating thing to frustrate us. And I don't think he's going to make it easy. I think he's going to congest it and hope to hit us on the break.
So obviously, straight after that game, we go down to play Brentford in the FA Cup fourth round, which is not going to be an easy game by any stretch. And then only 3 days after that, we've got a massive semi-final against Aston Villa, and then a big game against Chelsea. So to that end, Ed, I'll let you answer this one. Against Brentford, how do you see the team lining up?
11 changes. Like, it's literally been said in this podcast, and obviously our opinions are our opinions and are not related to the truth. But if the issue is fitness related, then we've got 4 massive games after that. We've got the second leg of a semi-final that we need to win. Like, if we don't win, we're out. We have a game against probably our closest rivals, who are going to chase us into 3rd, 4th place, like 3 or 4 days after that, whatever it is. And then we play Wolves, who, haven't really been thought about much this season, but they're up there, very solid, and did well that last season as well. And then Man City, it's like bang, 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 like games. We can't play our first team for each.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but can we even make 11 changes? Like, we got the personnel for that?
Probably not at the moment. Not fit anyway.
Unless we're going to call up, under 23 players. There's been, I won't be against seeing, Hurst or a couple of midfielders maybe at least being on the bench. But in terms of actually being able to make a straight 11, I think you'd literally struggle.
Let's see. We'd have.
Well, poor old Danny Ward would finally get a game.
Christian Fuchs, Wes Morgan. Then you would probably have to play. Well, Benkovic isn't injured, is he?
Benkovic is fit. But Morgan was on the bench again.
Yeah, so I'd play both of them. Justin. I'd play Choudhury, Pratt, and who would the next one be? Mendy. Then I'd play Gray, Iheanacho, Albrighton.
And that's still a strong side, right? Yeah. Like, it's still a good enough side to get the result against Brentford, you'd hope.
You'd say so, because I'm expecting them to be resting. They only drew 0-0, but that was against a revitalised Huddersfield or Leicester reserves team. So, I think on a serious note, Brentford first team are a good side, playing some real good football. But I don't think they'll be. Championship's a demanding league with the amount of games to play, so they'll be making changes as well.
What does Cup man Chris think the Leicester team will be? How many changes would you make if you were the gaffer?
Well, I mean, in terms of the silverware, I think I'm still hoping we're going to win the League Cup. In terms of the FA Cup importance, I think we need to be sensible. You literally rarely see 11 changes. That being I think there'll be over 8. Like, for once, I actually agree, but I'm just saying that 11's a bit extreme or not even possible. But I think if we get knocked out of the FA Cup but we beat West Ham, then I won't be upset. I think silverware in terms of the League Cup and a top 4 finish would satisfy 99.9% of the Leicester.
They say a leopard doesn't change its spots.
It doesn't. I think
you heard it here first. Most of them wants out of the cup.
Yeah, Mosen actively hoping for Leicester to lose. That's what I heard. In terms of Brentford's rotation themselves, I mean, they've got a full week between their game, like you said, the draw against Leicester's B team on Saturday, and then they play us on this game coming up, and then they've got 3 days after they face Forest in what is a rather large game in the Championship, because obviously that's 4th v 5th. They're both level on points. It's only goal difference to separate them in a minute. So they'll definitely have one eye on that. I was fortunate enough to go and watch them play against QPR last week, and they do move the ball nicely. They're quite direct. That Ollie Watkins, who plays up front, is quick, but he likes to run in the channels and try and get in behind, which I'd imagine is where they'll try and stretch us. So depending on what side we play, if we say do play Morgan and Benkovic, I can see that causing us problems, because neither of them are exactly mobile. They're both good in the air, but they're not quick. So it's by no means a formality playing as a Championship side, especially one who can play like they do. So it'll be a tough game for Leicester, but in reality they should be beating them even with 11 changes. But on that note,
before we move on, I am going to actually think we are going to see the return of a youth team player. And I say return because I think his last appearance probably was in the FA Cup.
Are you going to say Kaputska?
I am. I think we're going to see him back in the fold, actually, based in this purely on one, my heritage, but secondly, also based on RODGERS' comments. He has been quoted as saying that he's obviously he's training with the first team, which not all of the under-23s, if any, do, I don't think. And also that he does see something in him. I think the last time, I do literally think the last time he played for us was at Millwall away in the FA Cup, which we lost in. But if there is going to be anyone, and again, he's a player he's really has disappointed. So if you're going to give him a outing or a squad place on the day, I think we might see him feature.
Maybe used as a backup then for Maddison. Do you want to hear some quotes that he said about RODGERS said about Kapustka earlier this week? He said,
please.
Well, I will. He said he's been very good in training. He's been excellent, to be fair. And then he started talking about how he broke into the Poland team, got injured, unfortunate on loan. But then he said, but from what he's seen in training, he's been really impressive. He's worked hard. He's technically gifted. He's sharp. He looks like he wants to score. He played well in the reserve game. So, yeah, like Chris says, he's saying good things about him in training. Who knows if we do, put a balls on the table and make 11 changes, maybe that could be a nice card up your sleeve to surprise the opposition with.
It'd certainly be nice to see him given the chance as well, wouldn't it? He came with such a fanfare and such high hopes. It'd be great to see him actually start to deliver on that. I'd quite like to see George Hurst given a run out as well, because he seems to be doing pretty well, and maybe play him before we get taken to court. So in terms of predictions, then guys, first of all, West Ham, please. Chris, would you like to go first?
I honestly see a really, really nasty game. Just a horrible spectacle for those who are going to be in the ground. I just think it's going to be not pretty. But again, I'll be ever the optimist. I think it's going to be 1-0. We're going to keep clean sheet, but it's not going to be a one to remember.
Wow. That'll be real nice for all those people that go out to watch it in the freezing cold. Ed, what do you think?
I'm just looking at West Ham's away form. They've lost 6 out of the last 10. They're not in great form overall. I know we're not, obviously, but I don't know. I see West Ham as a type of team that, if you're having a bad run of form and you could invite a team to your home ground to get back to winning ways, they're just a bit of and I feel like an idiot because I basically said this about Burnley as well. But they're just a bit of a nothing team. They're solid in most areas. But, well, Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could have egg on my face again, but I just think that that's a team that shouldn't really be like, in comparison to the last two teams we played that we probably should have beat. We should have we should be beating Southampton if we're on our A game, but they were on form, and Ings has been in great form recently, so they have got a danger. Burnley, even though they've not been in form, the way they play and having the big men who can create stuff from set pieces, they have some threats even when out of form. West Ham, whether they're in form or not, I don't really see as a mega threat. So I don't know. I'm going to predict 2-0, and you feel free to, laugh at me next week when I'm wrong again. But I think, I think we should take that.
I'd rather you be correct. To be honest, I take you getting it right and Leicester getting 3 points. I think it's a very important game. Chris, you're probably right. It might not be exactly a spectacle. I'll be optimistic and say that I think we'll win. I really, really do hope that we can sort of get clicking and get playing again. But I think it'll be scrappy as well. As you've taken 1-0, I'll say 2-1. You can just see someone like Haller or Noble, after you've just slagged him off, popping up with a goal out of nowhere, can't you? Just against a run of play. It'd be typical Leicester. But I certainly hope that we can win. It is in fact on TV, Chris, on BT Sport.
Is it?
So you will be able to watch that if you can't make it to the game, everyone, which is great. I'll be there in the freezing cold. Look forward to it. And then we will travel down to Brentford for a fairly big FA Cup game. Could potentially be the last FA Cup game at Griffin Park. What are your predictions for that one? That's a harder one to predict.
I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
That's the last thing you want.
And here's my real
lose the game,
curveball.
I think.
My curveball would be that, man, maybe this is just my fancy football experience talking. I wouldn't even care about a replay, because if I really am just focusing on the league and or League Cup, then the FA Cup, even a replay, is just another chance to play your reserve. So keeping them fresh and giving everyone some game time. So if they do need to step up to the first team, they can do. So yeah, I'm going for a draw, 1-1.
Are there replays? Is that how it would work?
Yeah,
or is
it puts off at the 5th round. So
yeah, so it is. That would be a disaster, a draw, wouldn't it? Chris, what do you think? What was your official prediction, please?
Yeah, it's one of them. You can literally draw it out of the hat. But purely because I've backed the cup all season, I do think we're going to plough on. I am going to come out with one of my mental predictions. I just think it's going to be one of those stupid games, and just for the sake of it being on BBC, so that's free. Well, it's not free to view, but anyone's got a TV license can watch it. I just see goals. It's going to be a mental game. Let's go 5-3 Leicester.
That is mental.
And what else can I add to it? Yeah, Iheanacho hat trick.
How many for Kaputska?
He'll get the other 2 then, won't he?
5 minutes on the pitch is his ear. I don't think he's going to start. I think
he's going to get 3 assists in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a 5-3. Let's go for it.
Good worker.
Yeah, why not? I actually agree with you. I think there'll be goals in the game. We can definitely get at them. There's a reason why we're doing very well in the Premiership, and I think if we do perform well, it'll be a really open end-to-end game. Let's say 3-1 and be really optimistic. I think that'll be a great result.
Did they look good defensively when you watched them?
They look quite good. Obviously, they've got Pontus Jansson, who's very imposing. He's a big guy, quite an angry defender, but he's not the most mobile again. I can't remember the name of the guy who played alongside him, but he wasn't dissimilar either. He didn't seem to be blessed with pace. But they play with like a midfield 3, and they're very mobile. They cover a lot of ground, so they will make it difficult through the centre. So yeah, I mean, but they were always looking to get on the front foot. Every single Brentford fan I spoke to kept banging on about the BMW that they've got up front with their with their three.
Pardon?
That could be taken very different. I don't know what I was thinking then, to be fair.
I think we're all thinking the same without saying it.
Well, it's
obviously
Said Benrahma playing on one wing, Ollie Watkins is the W, and Brian Mbeumo is the other player.
It's literally an acronym. I was lost actually. There.
It is literally an acronym. It's like the Sterling, Aguero, Sané, the SAS at Man City used to have. But
right.
That's what they were saying. They've really, all the fans constantly saying how good they are and that you need to keep an eye out for them. They're very direct, very quick. That Benrahma is extremely skillful, and all three of them scored against QPR actually. So it turned out that it wasn't just a ridiculous acronym, and it was based.
So I do have a boring question for you. It's the last season Brentford are playing at their at this ground. In terms of atmosphere, for me it feels like sort of a Kenilworth Road sort of place. So do you think is it close to the fans? Is it like an intimidating arena, if you like?
Yeah, the pitch is very, very close to the stands. You are right on top of it. One end of it is terrace standing, which is where they put that's where their loudest section of fans are. But the away fans are opposite the other end of the pitch, behind the other goal. So it's a bit of a weird atmosphere, really.
That's partially standing, though, isn't it? I believe,
and that's partially standing as well. It's a two-tiered thing. It's a bit strange. It's almost like a balcony. It's in that one's directly on top of the other one. So it does I think it probably makes it quite hard for the away fans to get going. But it means that the atmosphere at the ground is a bit strange because all the noise is coming from two ends of it. As opposed to the main stands in the middle. But it's an imposing place to go. It's very traditional, it's got the pillars and, there's not a lot going on, but there's a pub on each corner of the ground. The fans are pretty welcoming. It'll be a good place to go and watch a game of football. I think it'll be one of those that you miss it when it's gone. But they're all very excited. They're all pretty optimistic about playing us as well. I think they're looking forward to showing that they can do it against the Premier League team. So they'll definitely be up for the game. There's no doubt about that.
So what's your prediction? Score prediction?
Well, I still think we'll beat them. I think it'll be 3-1 to Leicester. And Leicester sent in a hat-trick as well. Why not? And I think we all need to lump on it as well.
That went well last time at the FA Cup.
Yes, God, what game that was. But anyway, that's as a fun note. I need to leave it on, isn't it?
I've got something to add.
Oh, go on then.
Some last-minute transfer news that I wouldn't normally share because it's not that important, but I think it will put a smile on people's faces. That Slimani had been linked with Aston Villa.
Yes.
And there was apparently genuine interest. But according to the Daily Telegraph, who tend to be relatively decent with their Leicester news, another club have set to make a move for Slimani. No, have a guess. It's a Premier League club. Who do you think it could be?
It's going to be Man United.
It's not.
Is it Tottenham Hotspur by any chance?
You are. Tottenham Hotspur.
No
apparently,
chance.
Given Harry Kane's injury, says the Foxes are braced for interest from Jose Mourinho's side after they listed Slimani.
He likes those sorts of players. He signed Fellaini, lest we forget.
Well, there you go.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what to make of that move, really. That's a bit of a strange one.
I can see it happening, and it's a tricky one. Like, I'm obviously nothing personal. I wanted him to come back to Leicester. I think he still had a bit to prove, but it'll be frustrating because I just think Mourinho, if any manager's going to get anything out of him, it'll be frustrating because I don't like Spurs at all. I'd rather see him go to Man United, who also need a short-term replacement. So I wouldn't be surprised if Man U start sniffing as well, to be fair.
I mean, it does fit the Tottenham sort of mould in that he's an old target man. I mean, because they've had Soldado and Llorente in recent years, haven't they? It just
fits Mourinho mould, I think, more than anything.
The report said Spurs are interested in the Polish guy from AC Milan. Yeah. I won't try to pronounce his name with Chris present.
Go on, Chris.
Piontek.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. But apparently AC Milan wouldn't allow him to leave on loan, and given Spurs have Harry Kane anyway, they're only really interested in a loan striker, which narrows down their options. And if Slimani's available, it's both banterous that a team like that are after him, but there may be some truth to it. Let's say Spurs fans on Twitter are not enthused about the prospect.
Well, I mean, he did always score goals, didn't like if you gave him the right service, but he just didn't fit in with how we wanted to play because you couldn't play him on his own.
Agreed, but then I'd still say like Tottenham Hotspur, they're a Champions League finalist last year. Like,
they should be aiming higher. Yeah, that's it. Would you be happy to see him go to a rival?
Well, that's what it says in this article, actually.
I'm not going to compare it to Van Persie to Man United, but we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot here.
It says Slimani's on the radar, but Leicester may be tempted to resist strengthening a rival for the top 4 race.
I completely agree. I don't. I mean, granted, we're currently 14 points ahead of them, but
imagine if Slimani fired them into the Champions League
at the expense of us, and then came back and we loaned him out to bloody play against some farmers again.
Plot twist.
Yeah. Plot twist. There you go.
There's your little add on for this episode.
So nothing else to add, either of you guys? No.
At this stage now, I think I'm done. I'm bored.
And hopefully everyone listening isn't at this point. If you have made it this far, thank you as always. Ed's bored himself, so I can only imagine how you're all feeling.
Let's go upstairs for a cuddle now.
Wow. Right, okay. Leave that one where it is, because frankly, don't want to know. Right. So please do subscribe. As always, we are available on all major podcast providers, and get in touch. Any feedback, questions, anything of the like, we always love to hear from you. And so thank you very much for listening. As always, for getting to the end, these are turning into quite regularly bumper episodes at the moment. But we will see you again in a week after 2 games, and hopefully we're a bit cheerier then.
Absolutely. I am desperate to know if anyone listens to this last little segment. So please, honestly, I'm actually begging, just on tweet, DM, anything. Just let me know. No one else cares. Just Chris. Are you still listening? Because, oh, come on, Rich. I know you're listening. Don't let me down. If you don't tweet us, man.
Amar is. Don't worry about that.
Amar will be here. That's true, actually. I think Austin as well. I've got hope in you as well. And there's a few others, but...
Yeah, send a message and we'll give you a shout-out next week, because Chris just loves hearing from you.
I do.
We do love hearing from you.
Trust me, every time I saw a message, I'm straight in the group chat saying, wow, it's still bizarre. So it's all good. But yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, 3 points soon come against West Ham. That's where my
option is. So please do get in touch, although Ed's bored everyone off by this point anyway. But thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.